So, as promised, we are now getting into doing the toe board, the floorboard, the torque box, and then we're also going to stick in a couple of the brackets that tie in the torque box to the frame because they're starting to show a little bit of rust. We're going to get new ones. They're cheap. You can get them from, I think it's Stang Parts, Mustang Parts. Oh, CJ Pony. That's it, CJ Pony. Of course, here we see in the back over there, in the back, right where that line is, that emergency brake line right behind it, that's the torque box that's going, kind of butted up against the firewall. And then it connects at the bottom, which is the piece of metal that you connect to your rocker panel and attach to your new frame rail, which we're also replacing. And then there's going to be another piece you don't see here because it's gone. It's going to go up and support the toe board. So we got the toe board. We're going to have to start taking some more stuff apart and get all the old metal out. And any parts that get in our way getting there. Probably going to have to do a cutout for the steering column. And then over here, one of the things I noticed that beyond the floorboard here, if you keep going, you start to see rotting. You can see through into the ceiling of the next room over there. Okay, I got this extra long one, as you can see. So this goes from, you see the 4 holes there, over there. So this goes on the underbody, under this seat area, and it'll continue from the floorboard all the way back, again, to the back of the seat, which is that hole right here, as you can see, and that's where it ends. So, but under the car, does not let water get in here. So this part is pretty bulletproof. This is okay. You can see we still got good metal here. Little surface rust in a couple spots. Actually, some of it looks like dirt. But either way, we can sand any of that down, pour some paint over it, and then we have to attach it to this, which is going to be a learning thing unto itself. And what I'm seeing here, if you look closely, keep my fingers out of the way, you have this lip here. So this lip is what this will attach to. So we're going to have to cut the metal here, and we'll cut the metal on the other side of the lip. We'll still, I would call this a throne area, because this is sort of like a riser for the seat. This area, this comes up, brings the seat up, and sits this riser area on top of the metal that goes under the car. We'll have to bend this in place, flatten it out. As you can see, again, my finger, as you can see, it's protruding out for some reason. I don't think that's a stock thing, so we'll flatten that out. We'll get the metal in here, and then we'll decide what we're going to do as far as adding any metal and adding any metal here down to the floorboard that's going under it and attaching that, which should be pretty simple. You're going to have to deal with brake lines and gas lines. It's not that big a deal, honestly. Even if you're at it, if they're getting to be rough around the edges, it wouldn't be such a bad thing to replace them. And you could bend them yourself, or you could buy them. I mean, it costs about $100 to buy the 2-piece, but bending them, time consuming, but it could be something you want to try. I think I'm going to treat myself to buying the bent pieces already, personally, but we'll see. Might change my mind. So we're going to start with the driver's side. Hey everybody, so I wanted to take a minute to talk to you about the precautions I took when I was doing this job. In addition to all the floor parts and the torque box, there's also a frame extension that hooks up to the main frame in the front of the car that needed to be replaced. So prior to doing any more cutting, the first thing I had to do was get the car up on all 4 wheels. I used my axle housings in the back. You're welcome to use your frames. And then in the front, there's an area between the bracket that holds your lower control arm and the sway bar. And that's where I put it, up in the front there. It seemed to be a perfect spot for it. The jack stand fit in there perfectly, got it as high as I wanted. It was great. The other major concern was making sure that the distance wouldn't change from one rocker to the other under the car. So what I was told to do is find some way to control that stuff and keep that width perfect the whole time. And what I did was I bought this square tubing. I had a piece of steel that I welded on the ends here and here, and then I just put it under the car and I clamped it on both sides. And it's real simple, it's real easy. It'll save you some major headache if anything bad were to happen throughout the process. So I hope this helps. I really hope you enjoy the rest of this video. It was a lot of work. It's very time consuming, but it was very rewarding in the end. And I mean, it looks so amazing now. You're gonna love it. So enjoy the rest of the video. Please subscribe. If you have any comments or anything you want to share with me and anybody else who's reviewing this, feel free to drop a line down below. Thank you. So here we are with step one, and I would have loved to have videotaped myself getting this thing out. This is the other torque box is out right now. So all I can tell you as far as what I did, I cut it out. I didn't try and get in here and get the welds out. I mean, however you can make it happen, do it. I'll grind all this stuff down later. We're gonna fill in here, and then we still have to get the frame rail out over there, as you can see. So we're getting there. We can see the inside, how it goes through. So again, we got to get this frame rail out, get it detached from there. We have to fill in this metal here, which means we're going to have to do some cutting, find clean metal, and put some steel in there, and then we'll put it all back together. We'll even clean up. I don't know if you could see it. Put it over here. We have some metal we got to grind out. So, you know, put a little piece of metal here like I showed you earlier, and we'll be ready to start welding this thing back together. We took the frame rail out in as many pieces as we needed to. So here, we're a little over on this, all right? So what we're going to do is we'll clean this up, make sure we're hitting the actual bracket exactly. Get that cleaned up. And then we're going to clean up this piece of framework here, okay? We're going to find any holes like you see here, right? We're going to place this with metal down here. We're going to clean this, grind it all down until we see metal and see what we need to replace. See what's going on. Lots of rotted metal. This happens on these cars. And then we'll treat all this stuff, make it look nice, patch it all back together. See? Goes over there where the old one was, comes across. It's going to go under. It's going to cup this piece of frame here, and it's going to go on top of the transmission bracket there. And then we just weld it all in, and we're done. Okay, so we have taken out everything. Here we see where the new torque box is going to mount there. It's going to mount here and under here where you see all the holes. Okay, and come over here. And there's our transmission mount. And there's where the floor is going to mount. And in here, this big gap where this sits, that's where our new piece of frame is going to go. You can see here. And technically, there's a nice dry fit. Now, the one thing we're missing, as you can see here, is we have to cut this metal here. It was shot, okay? Both sides. Alright, so we have to get in there and sand down. As far as me getting the torque box out, the frame rail out, all the metal out, and some of it even grinded out, and some of it even still needs some grinding, you have to do whatever means necessary. I used this part that I got looked up from a guy online. His name's Joe Daddy, great guy. I looked up this part, one of these. This helps you get your pinch welds or your spot welds undone much easier. 10, it's called the Steam Buster, by the way. Very good tool. I am going to buy an electric, like a hammer tool that does the same thing, just to make this go a little easier for me. But we got it pretty much cleaned up here. Got it cleaned up along there. We just have to weld in some pieces, all right, here, over here, like I said, and we'll be ready to put in our new torque box. By the way, I used that seam buster to take apart my torque box, and now here's what it was. One piece, pull it apart, get the bottom piece in first, bring the top piece on top of that, it'll be a lot better. Okay, so here we are. I bought, probably thicker than I should have, pieces of 2-inch steel. Okay, stuck them in. They don't go all the way down inside here, but they probably ride up high enough. You get 2 welds a piece from a pattern we'll get on here, and there on this metal. This is nice and firm now, all good. Cleaned up really well over here. Okay, I'm going to weld this to that. I'm going to stick a couple pieces of angle iron in. I'll stick a couple pieces of angle iron in, just to add to the integrity what we have going here under. So we'll get a couple spot welds at the bottom, and then we'll of course weld the tab here where the previous one was, and then we'll, of course, once we get this in, we'll put the floor on top of here. But let's deal with, and then we'll as you can see here, if you look closely, you have your old welds right here and here, right here, and right here. Here, right here. Oh wait, there. So we'll drill them out, and then we'll get to the bottom of the frame rail, floor support from there. And then we'll weld on the top here a couple of pieces, so we'll drill out that also, and this should be ready to go. And then we'll stick in our torque box after that. Also, I wanted to share one other thing. Before you put in your frame rail floor support, I recommend knowing your torque box is going to work. So you've already taken it apart. I used a jack to get it in, wedged in here, because it gets real tight. And you might have to bang some of your metal this way in a little, bang some of this out to get it in, but get it in. Make sure this lines up here with this. Make sure back here lines up with this, and you can squeeze this on here so you can weld it. And then I also gotta make sure this gets in right now, so I need to clean up all that in there so I have a clear passage for this to get on. So I'm gonna give that a cut because I got a new toe board going up there anyway, and then I try it one more time and get this in here. So we got these holes for the edge of the board. We got the holes cut out in the transmission here at the bottom. I'm going to show you the top of where this is cut out, and then for these extensions we made, cut out there. So here's the tip for the back. Here's the top cuts for the transmission. Bottom, we might cut down there. And of course, there are holes in here, and we're just going to transfer them over here, cut those holes in, and then we're going to weld this in. Okay, so here we start to see things coming together. You have your toe board on the firewall over there. It's all spot welded in. We're going to finish some more spot welds later and then sand it down. One of the things I wanted to show you was that, and you can't see it looking here, but I trimmed a bit off of here and a bit off of here. It's just a lot of extra. It's unnecessary. As you can see, we have plenty of good metal here, So I'm not cutting this whole thing out. The metal that's there, it's great integrity. So I trimmed the boards. I put a little kink here so it would meet and come down. And then of course we're down here. It's all hooked up. Now the next thing to do is, again, I only cut off what I need. So I drew lines to see where the top of the floorboard comes, and then I'm measuring to go maybe an inch above what we have here with the other piece of metal. And we're going to hold our edge on the other piece of metal over here on the rocker. We're also going to cut this because I'm going to show you something. Okay, so here you can see when I put that piece of metal in, it's not perfect. It's not perfect at all. The line, this line here isn't meeting with this line. So again, we have lots of excess. We have the end of the toe board coming here, and we have this going all the way up. I just don't see the need in it. If anybody gives me feedback and says, look, this is why you should do it, I'll listen, but this is what I'm doing. So I'm going to leave this edge here. Obviously have this edge going along here, but along here, again, we have almost over 2 inches of extra. So I measured, and I'm going to cut above here, and then I'm going to come down, cut above there. All that's coming off. I'm going to take these humps off all the way across, and this will meet the bottom of that, and it'll lay on top of it fine. You just, you know, it's up to you how you want to handle it. This is what I decided. I think it's fine. I think doubling the metal for all that extra distance just seems useless. So, and not to mention, it'll make it easier marrying it all together, as opposed to, you know, trying to get this perfect here. Could I do this? I could, but then we have this big old gap right here. So I rather hold what should be here. This could be either me a little, it could be what I received, it could be how I put in the toe board. But at the end of the day, as long as it looks nice, cleans up nice, you put your soundproofing on, you put your carpet on, you never even know what's going on under here. And the integrity, I mean, we know it's number one. So that's that. And there you see it. Let's get this. Here, you just have to bend this in a little bit. Same over here. Just bend it in a little, but I mean, and barely. Just here mostly. This bend has to be pushed in a little. But you got everything meeting. You're done. You still see your lines here. It looks like it belongs like this, so that's it. We're going to weld this in and do any little patching, sanding, and we're pretty much ready to go to the other side. We still have to add a couple of patches. We have one in here. We got to add some patch metal and patch metal in here to catch this. Of course, we'll drill our holes and make it all catch, and we'll be working on the driver's side at that point. So here's that little spot we're going to fill in. I've got a piece of 22 gauge steel and literally just slide it in here so it butts up against. What I'll do is I'll take this rule here just to make sure it's straight in relationship to the rest of it. So I'll pull it forward just a wee bit. Keep it looking clean. And there you go. As good as it's going to be. Weld that in. We'll stick our piece of floor in. It's going to be complex because this area here is sort of nudging up the floorboard. So I kind of put a little kink in the floorboard down here. And I'm just going to shove down. I got to get up against my rocker panel over here first. And then I'll put in all my spot welds on the frame. And then we'll work around the sides and get this thing done. So, as you can see here, it's giving some light. Got a bunch of tack welding everywhere around the perimeter. Again, this center section was a bear. I ended up stacking 2 cinder blocks here, one long and one tall, just to get it to tighten up with the frame under it. But I mean, look, we went from putting our foot down on the, we could see the exhaust right there, right? No more exhaust. So I'm going to seal this up, finish the welding around the entire perimeter, and then we're going to get to side B. And as you can see, we have just as much of a nightmare over here. Even more of a nightmare because even though these two seat risers are good and the back seat area floor over here is good, over here I have a new piece of metal going over the floor for the driver's side back seat passenger. So we'll get to that next. So I want to walk you through just part of the process here, kind of give you a visual of what was happening. I said that, you know, you got to use any means necessary to get all this old body parts out of the car. And here was just an example of the back of the toe board, which comes up to the tire, and what I had to do to get it out. And basically I just cut around anywhere I could safely. You know, you don't want to hit the tire, you don't want to hit any wires, make sure nothing is in your way during this whole process, and you know, get it out of there. Be safe. I use gloves all the time just to make sure I wouldn't cut myself, and that's about it. So I'm hoping this visual helps you, and let me know if you have any thoughts. So I just want to take a minute here and give you a little visual. So here is where, this area here is where my floor is, okay? Here's the, where's my hand? Here's the riser for the seat. So now under the seat, I just want you to get an idea of physically what we're looking at here, okay? So we have this piece of metal here. I guess it's a support for the riser. That's what I'm going to say. That's what the riser is sitting on. So if you don't need to replace this, and granted, you can sand this all down, you can prime it, it'll nearly be as good as new. Little slit here for me cutting out this bottom piece. If I was smart, and hopefully you're smarter than me, when you do this, get the piece of sheet metal that goes from the back seat floor all the way to where the front seat floor goes, which is right about here. It's about a 5-foot piece. But without that being said, this is what you got under here, in case you're wondering what you got to do, and do you know, how can you take this apart without actually taking this out? So that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to avoid taking out this piece of seat riser here and leaving all this intact, and then work around it, and then I'll put my new piece of metal in all the way through to my floor where my feet go till it touches the toe board, which goes up against the torque box. So just giving you a visual of what you're looking at. I hope you learned something. So it was all surface rust, and I took the surface rust off and I painted it with some rust, you know, with some primer, just to keep it from rotting anymore. Not that it'll be out on the road the way it used to be. And now we got a brand new piece of metal here. So here's something I wanted to share. It's kind of like one of my tips and tricks thing. So as you can see here, this is the transmission mount that goes to the frame that goes under the seat and the front floor. Now what happened was, I ended up destroying this piece of metal that attached to it. And so as I'm going to show you, I got a brand new piece right here. It's got a little bend in it, and you stick it up here. Fits in there perfectly. Comes up nicely. And not to mention, part of my tip is, this is some original metal that came off of one of the old torque boxes that still had some good integrity. So I have this 2-inch metal that wasn't big enough. This is 3x3, so it just covers and comes over. And the tip is, as you're replacing some of this old metal in here, always try and distinguish, or always try and find any of the metal that's good to put aside if you ever need a piece. And I'll show you that later. But here's the piece I got out of it so far, and it comes in really handy. And there you go. There's the top where it meets. Here's the bottom. We'll clean up those spot welds. Okay. Nice and strong. Look how thick that is. Nice piece of steel. Use as much old steel as you can, because that's always the better stuff at the end of the day, as long as it's in good shape. Alright, so the next thing here is, I didn't want to show you the work involved. It's really not that complicated. But a couple things got to happen here. So, again, just like the other side, we came over and we squeezed this framing here, in between here. We have our long pieces that we're putting in. Where's my piece? It always disappears. This piece is going to go in, weld it to this piece of framing here. I put this in to help give me something to hold it up. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier. Even if it slips, it's not falling on the ground all day. The problem is, you got that new piece that's under here, and then you got to come over here and go under. Now this piece I will weld last, because I may have to take my half size sheet metal, cut it here, and then weld the other part on the bottom under the seat. So basically, you know, if you have to put these extensions in, my opinion, sometimes this can be rough to get back in. Again, it's going to go around it, but it makes it a lot easier to get it in. And then you can, what I would recommend, drill your holes to weld this ahead of time. This is going to go over here. It's a shorter piece. More of the metal on this side was better. Then we can weld to them. After we weld to them, we'll weld to the transmission here. And a lot of times when you're doing your setups, make marks and stuff where things line up. Like I got these two pieces lining up here, and this showing me where the edge, the transmission is. Of course, everything else falls into place as you see here. Real good help. So we're about ready to get this thing together, and then we can get our torque box in, and then you have toe board, floor, and we're out. Here's something that kind of helps. Before you get it in there, stretch that wire more towards this end as opposed to the end where it attaches to everything. I got it in position now. Now I am going to attempt to get my, see I got the cable up against the steel over there. I'm going to attempt to get my steel on here now. And there you go. What I ended up deciding was I have this picture of this whole area before I finished tearing everything out and disconnecting my emergency brake cable. And the one thing I noticed that it was doing naturally, it was running right to here, just like that, in that direction. It wasn't going up, it wasn't doing, it was coming right down. So I figured, you know what? I don't know what this looked like because it was all rotted out anyway. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a hole here. I'm going to make a large round hole up there and make sure that this isn't, you know, so tight. Make sure it's got a little bit of play, but it's connected everywhere. And what I'll do is I'll cut the piece out nice and clean here. I'll replace it and weld it into here. And up there, not worry too much. Still got a floor going down around the whole thing. Work it out. So now you're done. So if you get to this point and you're like, how do I get the emergency brake cable in there? I would suggest doing this. If it's stock, it only has so much length. And if you have a way of modifying it to make it work, that's great. But if you want to keep it the way it was intended to be, you've got to let it do what it needs to do naturally within its place. So take the top of that torque box, cut a couple of holes, one right here and one up there, okay? And just snake it through there and you'll be fine. I hope this helped. And there you have it. We have our new piece in. We'll sort of make it airtight up there with whatever we need to do up there to close up the seal by the emergency brake up there. We have this done. The piece I cut out, I welded back in, so I'll sand that down. So it looks like it's always been there. Everything else is in here nice and tight. So off to getting this floor in here, and we'll be on our way. I just want to share a little something here. Here you see this. This is the toe board going up to the firewall on top of the new torque box. So what ends up happening, and I don't know why this happens, but they send this piece of metal. All the other pieces of floor metal have the piece that come up, have the edge angled up, so it goes against the rocker panel on the inside, and then you could tack it in there. This one, this is twice now, comes flipped, so it's going down here, and the thing is, the torque box is coming up. There's nothing but metal there. I'm not going on top of that. I mean, you need this thing to be sitting flat on the torque box. So what I end up doing is I'll flatten this piece of steel. And to make it easier, just cut the corners. I mean, if you're going to end up using them, which I don't anyway, especially up here, I'm cutting most of this off because the metal, the firewall metal, is fine in the car itself. And then I have a 90-degree coming up, so it runs the same as the floorboard. So just a little tip if you're like wondering, is this happening to everybody? It happens to me, but I don't know if it's everybody. But this is what you could do to help save yourself from trouble. Either that or cut the entire lip off altogether. But I would recommend keeping the lip, kind of help with sealing, go against the next metal, hold it in place. So no, I wouldn't recommend cutting it. I take that back. Okay, so we're getting to the big finish here on the floor for the main stuff. So I have this piece, and this half goes under the seat, but then this half is visible under your feet and goes up to the extension piece that goes to the firewall. Thing is, how do you know where to cut? Because when I put this in, I can't put this in one piece. I have to put in the bottom piece under the seat and the part that goes under my foot separately. So here's what I was thinking. Instead of trying to measure from over there to where your floor piece finishes, go under your car. You got a perfect situation here. We have an edge of metal. We have another edge here. Okay? All we have to do is measure from here to about, from here to about here. Okay, I'm going to show you, see if you can see what I'm seeing when I do this. I don't know if it's going to show it, but when I measure, I get about 16.5 with a good overlap. So 16.5 here. This way, we measure from here to here. We came up with 16.5. Let's look at that. And it's really, there's your 16.5 right there. It's perfect because when you look at your other side, again, another 16.5. I also check the center of the holes that you have to go through to mount your seat on the riser that's in there. So again, when you measure here, get that 16.5, got about a ½ inch or so before it gets to that recess here where this drain plug goes. And if you look inside here on your other side already, you'll see, again, let's see if I can get some light there. That piece is about a ½ inch before it gets to the drain plug recess area there. So 16.5 is a good estimate. Again, you could always weld a piece of metal in there. If it's short, it's too long, you can always trim it back. And there you go. We have two pieces. This is going to go under the seat. This is going to go on our floor. We'll trim either of these up as we need to. And I'm telling you, we're ready to go. So we're finally at the finish line with the floor here. And I want to show you some very important things to do in preparation for getting this last two pieces that are literally, they were one piece and I cut them in half down to one. Okay, so I got these in a really good place. I have a cinder block on the other side of the floor to hold it in place here so it doesn't move around. Or did I take it up? Either way, I have one on there. Keep it down. And then I took that seam and married it up. And here you'll see I even put a couple of marks here where it should touch. And I did that on the side as well. So this is where I wanted to line up here. I wanted to line up these marks here and even do it on the second piece. If I can get the camera on it. There's the second piece. Here's a couple on the second piece. This way, you know, in preparation for getting this last piece in, now that I'm going to go, I'm going to have to clean up over here, clean the metal so I can get a good weld over here. And then I'm going to have to bend this piece to you know, get into here. So, and then at that point, once these are welded together and everything's in place, then I'll go and put the back piece of the frame rail. I'll pop that one there and we're done. You know, everything went really well, believe it or not. Even here, we have enough that we're hanging on the edge of. And meanwhile, we have our new piece right here as well. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do this as one long piece, but you know, when you have a situation, you adapt and make it work. So I'm gonna get this in, and there we can see at the bottom, you know, that that emergency brake cable in there. It's pretty good. So let's get to this. So on this last piece I put up, here we have it married against the floorboard. Okay, we have it married over here. My finger in there. Where's my finger? There it is. Okay. And then we have it married against. This is the floor on the passenger, the rear driver's side seat. So this is now under the seat riser. And the funny thing was, I didn't know how to hold this thing up. Like I just can't clamp it to anything. There's nothing over here. This is sealed. Nothing over here, and it's not really going to hold well here because the lip is on the inside. So what I ended up doing was I took my hydraulic jack, stuck a piece of wood in there, and I just pushed it up, held it in place, and then just sort of jogged it as I needed to. So again, take your hydraulic jack, just stick some wood up there, get it up there so it's fitting. Don't try and give it too much pressure. You don't want to start bending it, and that's it. Then you can adjust, do your spot welds, take it off, and then finish welding. You know, I got enough in here to hold it in place. Now I'm going to go around the whole thing and finish.